super excited for this topic today. I'm old school, guys. I have been into this phenomenon for 20 years plus. It's two-parter. I just realized after uploading the first part, this is such a huge controversial topic, mind-blowing. I mean, it's all over the place. If anybody would even research something like this, you're not probably going to find me, but I felt compelled to do it. It's something that I really wanted to talk about because, 20 years brings up a lineage of a lot of different important figures and people that I've, always felt connected to, that had a lot to say about everything that's going on in the UFO and ET, field of research, and whether you believe, you don't. And it's been very valuable to me, and it's a part of my life now where, if yet again, we have another elected official announcing that there may be UFO disclosure. It's funny because my wife and I were just sitting at a restaurant having dinner the other night, and everywhere you go, there's freaking TVs, all in your face, wherever you go, gas station, restaurant, you're paying your bill through the screen. It's everywhere, and they're talking about Trump doing everything he can to release, the classified files on UFOs. And at this point, and I don't mean to sound cocky or have any arrogance behind it, but I don't need anyone to convince me whether I should believe or not anymore. I mean, to me, the evidence is undeniable. It's been around forever, which I'm about to discuss. I actually had to make notes on this one. Normally I could just blah and it just kind of all spills out, but I was like, I kind of got to really think about this long span of time, and who kind of stood out for me, and just my personal story, my voyage, and whether you're a believer or a non-believer, that's kind of what this is all about. So I made two parts because the first part really had everything to do with more of the intuitive person, one who can feel their way into trying to understand what it is they want to believe or not. These, might be the healers, the channelers, the spiritualized people, whatever you want to call us, tree huggers, you call us what you want. But that's kind of my way. I sort of intuitively grasp a concept, and I sort of feel, and I use discernment whether or not I want to believe in that or not. So some people prefer more of a guided meditation. So if you haven't seen the first part, that's actually me channeling my guides. And it's funny because the other day when I was going into some of my journals to actually make these notes, I had a channeled message there and it sounded like the channel message of today. So it's strange because it's almost like the way that I look at the phenomenon that's going now, the release of everything that's sort of coming out, has kind of been dormant in me for a long time, because you get so used to bringing up whether it is conspiracy or spirituality or whatever way you dig into this tunnel to open your worldview, and it's like no one wanted to talk about it. So you kind of suppress that and you just get used to going about your life. But I just feel like there's this ramp up of energy right now. People are just starting to ask questions. Things are starting to evolve, and we're kind of getting up off of our ass. People like you and me, we're starting to talk about it again. So, this is my perspective, but I understand, and that's the part two. There's the rational people, the critical thinking. You have so much value in this just as well, and whatever part of the journey that you're on. Maybe you need more of a decisive, discerning kind of way into opening up this paradox of all that is, because this is a huge topic, one that cannot be figured out by listening to one person like me that can say, hey, check out this, check out that, mark your little boxes. It's not going to work that way. But we are unfolding this umbrella of the bigger picture right now. So all I'm trying to do in this part Are UFOs and ETs real? Is just kind of talk about 20 years of some of the impactful influencers, some of the people that really risked their lives. Some of these first people in these notes, I mean, they were threatened. There's huge stories about the men that would show up in the unmarked cars and the little black suits knocking on your door, and they they were all about, taking you out for speaking about the truth and, trying to alter the conscience of humanity into thinking outside the box. Oh my God, that'd be so terrible. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that for a couple minutes, and some of the big hitters that, came up. As far back as I can really remember, I think I always was a believer, but it started hitting me, kind of after my big awakening 25 years ago. And that's when I started, to get into the research, because you really do want to find that out. And then, it just felt like somewhere in the early 2000s, and then it heated up again in 2008 to 2012 with the Mayan predictions and the end of the world prophecies and the way everything just kind of came together, that people were just everywhere exploding with information. And then it just kind of got subtle for a while, and now we're ramping back up. So if I'm looking at my notes and I'm going way back, I mean, big time, like something you definitely want to look at sometime is the Billy Meier story. I think that's one of the go down in history, like ultimate legends. And I'll try and list these in the description down below, because, I'm going to do a lot of yakking here and you'll be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Billy Meier, that was one of the biggest cases that happened back in the 70s. Allegedly, Palladian ships landed on the yard in his farm. I think I can't remember if he was Austrian or Switzerland, whatever. I'm not going to go do all this research all over again. But huge case. No one has debunked it or necessarily accredited it to being 100% true. It's just fascinating. And the way that I say to go into anything with UFO is just let it open your mind. If it's something that you still can't connect with and you need to see it with your own two eyes to believe it's real, it could be the greatest science fiction story that you ever hear, because it's just it's so interesting. And I think that we're just starting to sort of assimilate that into our culture as being a possibility that we're not alone in the universe. Billy Meier. Everything in those early days started heating up. 80s, 90s. I mean, you had George Noorey with Coast to Coast Radio. I mean, this was the stuff that, was going on, like being recorded and then broadcasted at like 2 o'clock in the morning, like, because it didn't fit into any criteria in the world, and it was seen as woo-woo and, esoteric. But George Noorey's been at it forever. He's still alive doing Coast to Coast, kicking butt, talking about anything you could ever imagine. Bigfoot, UFOs, freaking fairies, whatever it is that's in that other dimensional realm, that paranormal, that multidimensional space. Something to think about. George is still out. I actually listen to him on Spotify once in a while, and like I said, he's still going strong. Back in the day, there was Graham Bell doing the same thing too. Graham Bell, two big names, kind of breaking through. These are the fathers of breaking through radio. This is before podcasters. That's before you looking at me on a freaking YouTube, like trying to understand something outside of the box, right? Huge name that came through. Big influence on me was William Cooper. This is 1991. Everyone out there that hears conspiracy theorist, a lot of that goes back to William Cooper. So in 1991, this guy had his own underground radio, and he was talking about everything, you guys. What you're hearing about now with Epstein, anything else that's transpiring out of this whole mess that we're in, the JFK assassinations, UFO cover-ups, the deep state, the cabal, Illuminati, the rituals, everything. This guy was doing it, and he was doing it in a way before phones. You know, he had to go to a library and go through cataloged information in order to find and do his research. Threatened, his whole family threatened. This guy went through hell to get the truth out to everybody, and I owe him, and everyone owes him so much respect. This is like a godfather of bringing in this information. This is early 90s. Okay, and then to look at my notes, if you start getting into more of the ET thing, somebody who had a big impact on me, Alex Collier. This was a guy also who walked away from a government job only to find himself in the hell that he went through to get the truth out. This guy allegedly had contact with the Andromedans, and he was amazing. He was so amazing I could almost cry, because he fought so hard to bring the message of truth from an outer, otherworldly civilization into our own and get people to wake up to the truth that something is bigger, something is going on, and worked for a long time into the 2000s before I think he got tired. He's still around, but he went through a lot of crap. So we gotta give love to these people that got us to the point that we're at now. People have heard of Atlantis, Edgar Cayce, another place you could go to. You should definitely look into Atlantis, just because we're sort of replicating that now. And if we're not careful with our AI simulated reality, our weaponization of everything, and the route we're going, I could see it all happen again. But I do have strong beliefs of a positive and fruitful nature that we are evolving and becoming more with unity conscious and getting out of this shit. But something to look at. So we get into early 2000s, back being a little more serious about UFO and ET and are they real. Stephen Greer comes out of nowhere. Most people have heard of him. If you've not, Disclosure Project. He did a very phenomenal job in the early 2000s, and he's still working at it today. I don't exactly know. There's a lot of disbelief and approval, depending on where you are in all this, as to what he's actually trying to do, if it's for profit or if it's for, trying to educate the public about what's actually going on. One way or the other, he made a huge mark on our history in the early 2000s, bringing out top military officials and those that are in dark projects of the government, ranks above the government that the president would even know of, and they admitted to, UFO intelligence, and they did it publicly. And for somebody that took an oath to, come out and put their ass on the line the way they did, we owe all of them so much for, having the guts to speak on behalf of something that was going on for so long that everyone was scared to talk about. So Stephen Greer, definitely something to look at. Like I said, Disclosure Project still going on, lots of documentaries, lots of good stuff. These are all just people that, kind of help me connect the dots, which brings me to a huge one, one that I can't even handle, and I've only got into it to a certain level. Everything we are going through right now, Epstein, pedophile rings, the cabal, the Illuminati, their 33 ranks, everything they do, the satanic rituals. If you really can handle seeing the big picture of that, the bloodlines, the rites of passage, how it all connects, the divulgence of where it all goes, David Icke. David Icke has been around for 40 years. He is one of the world's renowned researchers on this topic. I could only handle it to a certain point. I'm a light worker, man. That dark side shit, it is so heavy. But somebody that had the freaking guts to do it, David Icke. Look him up. Lots of books, documentaries, interviews. You're going to see the bigger picture. Coinciding with that at the time, somebody that I don't know what the hell happened to him, but David Wilcock was big back in like 2008 to 2012, back when I was heavily into the research of this, wrote a lot of good books, The Synchronicity Key. He got a lot of heat. He went through a lot too to try and, divulge, what was going on behind the scenes. I mean, I remember hearing interviews where, he was worried about his life and just digging in. But see, the power that we have now is information's moving so fast. There's thousands of us now talking about this stuff. It's not just 5 figureheads out there in the world, the John Lennon, the JFK days, everything that was going on. There's so many of us. What are they going to do? Do they send 1,000 soldiers out from the dark cabal to attack us and take us down? No, they can't control it anymore. This is moving at a rapid rate. We are increasing in consciousness and just forcing our way through this crap. We're opening up, man, and I love it. At that time, too, Graham Hancock comes in the picture, and that's not so much, he had huge Netflix success here lately. Thank God we're starting to learn about our ancient ancestors, ancient technology, not necessarily on the UFO, ET fence, but waking us up to understanding that we were so much more in our ancient past than we could ever imagine. And is there UFOs tied to that or not? Which brings me to Eric von Däniken, Chariot of the Gods, if you've ever read that, and how powerful that was. Another godfather that sort of brought this whole hypothesis into play about, how we were not just, cave dwellers with sticks and rocks, and these ancient sites all over the world were erected, and there was absolutely a continuity throughout all of it. And whether you want to believe that it has anything to do with aliens, which in my opinion, I hate the term alien. I call it our galactic family. I think that we're a part and parcel to a much bigger picture out there, and it's not just some little gray alien people with black eyes coming down here to take our our eyeballs out. You need to open up to the possibility that there's a lot more going on that is coming here, and it's always been here. But since the 1940s, which, believe it or not, look it up, do your own research, allegedly UFOs were already landing on the White House lawn. And I know that sounds nuts. Just look it up, do it yourself. But it's been growing in expansiveness since that point forward, and we have so much eyewitness testimony, documented evidence, and just ways in which that we can begin to start to think about it a little more clearly, Just some of my personal loves. My heart goes out. We lost, I'm going to make sure this camera's still rolling. Hold on a minute. Yeah, it is. Okay. My heart goes out to somebody we lost a few years ago, Dolores Cannon, somebody that had a huge impact on my life, not only her books, but her lectures, her teachings. If you've never heard of her, hypnotherapist for over 40 years. And what's special about her stories is her and her husband got out of the war, and they started doing hypnotherapy to help, veterans, quit smoking, get over their traumatized behaviors. And then what happened is, whether you call it angelic, whether you call it ET, whether you call it multidimensional, whether you call it light beings, whatever started coming into her sessions and speaking through her clients, and she ended up with libraries of information, doing so many recessions throughout all these years, and some of the greatest ways that they had a chance to express themselves through sort of a conduit, like a channel, and it's documented. It's just somebody that you need to look up if you want to sort of broaden your horizons, because I'll say it again, even if you're going to enjoy the ride, no matter if you're a believer or a disbeliever, because it's just, you would not believe how big this universe is and how incredible it is. and how many layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. We are multidimensional. And whether you believe in the paranormal or not, it's existing all around us at any given time. And what I talked about in the last episode is it's a convergence. We're just getting closer and closer and closer to where we just sort of subtly become that awareness. And we don't differentiate from it anymore. It's just a happening, really. Dolores Cannon, check her out. One of my brothers that I love, 15 years with James Gilliand. He has a ranch in Washington State, and also now a new one in Hawaii, 7 acres. This man is for real. Look him up. Interviews, documentation, 40 years in the field. He has one of the biggest UFO hotspots in the world, although he's been going through hell just like anybody else. Be careful, because even the UFO community is a big industry and they shun him. They don't treat him with respect because he can't be controlled. He's been doing this long enough. He has enough evidence and footage that things have happened. He's a healer. He's just a beautiful person that has always given everything he had to humanity. If you want to see something that looks like real footage to you, check out ECETI Ranch. They've got enough footage. Whether you're a believer or not, just go for the ride. But thousands upon thousands of hours of just good material, great interviews. He's brought in people from everywhere, from the scientific community to, the engineers, just anything you can imagine to kind of give a broader scope of, what this phenomenon is all about. And other than that, because I don't want to talk your ear off too long, like I said, I've just been kind of dormant for the last 10 years and only excited to start talking about this again. And I'm not really interested in the research anymore. I don't need 8 different people telling me what to believe and what not to believe. I go within and I know what I feel inside, but I still genuinely like to be inspired. And I'll tell you what's inspiring the most to me anymore is just, I did a video a while ago and I said about changing your algorithm. Get connected with the things that make you feel good. And for me, that's spiritual connection with a family who's talking about the same thing I'm talking about right now. And these freaking kids coming out, man. Like the kids, this new generation. I mean, I'm old. I'm an old energy soul. And I feel like the new kids, man, they're just fresh. Like they're just nailing it. Like they don't even need the research like I'm talking about anymore. They're already on it. They're talking about it. They feel it intuitively. They're just bringing forth good information. And these are the people that I'm seeing on Instagram now. These are the people I'm seeing on YouTube. I'm like, man, you go. Like, can I retire now? Because like I'm tired. But I'm still here. I'm still trying to make a difference. And then last but not least, one podcaster that I do really appreciate and I want to give any respect to, Cliff Dunning. I do frequent Earth Ancients a lot. He does Earth Ancients, and then there's a side off of that he does. It's called Destiny. And huge, just well-rounded way to go about everything from our ancient history to, the brightest and smartest researchers in the world that are in the field of that. If you're interested in Egypt, if you're interested in Mesopotamia, if you're interested in the Mayans, all of that nailed. Engineers, you would not believe the people that bring on there. One of the greatest stories that I heard not too long ago was a woman who kept having a reoccurring dream, and she was like a foreman for like a construction outfit or something, had this reoccurring dream and decided that she needed to make healing pods. And now, after she followed through with that dream, she's got over 260 healing pods throughout the United States, where people go into a chamber and light frequency and sound frequency are entering in this chamber and they're healing themselves. and they're changing their lives. I mean, I love hearing stories like that. So check out Earth Ancients, Destiny. That'll get you into the, the woo-woo spiritual stuff as much as it'll get you into more of the techie, the research, the heavily, timeline data that you need to know. Anyway, I don't know if anybody's ever going to find this video. It's just, like I said, such a broad topic, but I was passionate to do it for all of you. These are just some of the key points that popped up through me sitting down for a couple minutes, be like, well, who the heck do I think about first? But there's so much more. Welcome to the rabbit hole. Welcome to one of the biggest unexplained yet curious mind F's you're ever gonna have. But I'm so happy that you're even interested. I think that so much more is going to come out this year and the years to come. And for me to walk outside tomorrow and just see UFOs flying in the sky would be nothing to me. For me to have a Pleiadian walk into my living room right now and have a conversation with me, I think would be exactly the same as you and I having a conversation right now. It doesn't bother me. It's just a part of our evolution, and I think we're going to see that very, very soon. So love and light. I love you all, and still working on the end of this by saying, tomorrow is today or something like that. I don't know. Write in the comments. Tell me what you think could be cool. I don't know. I would love to take something you want to say and put it in. I would love anybody to comment. I would love for somebody to see this video. But peace, guys. Thanks for listening. Take care.